I have this conversation as we talk about a veterans strategy that will be outlined by the government today with some fairly chunky funding behind it. Let's get more from Labour MP and Minister for Veterans and People, Louise Sandher-Jones. Good to have you on, Minister. What is it you and your colleagues are announcing today? Good morning to you.
Good morning. So yeah, the veterans strategy, this is a hugely important milestone as part of our commitment to renew our contract with those who serve and have served. So this veterans strategy is based on 3 pillars, and it's fundamentally about resetting the narrative about how we talk about our veterans. So I'm a veteran myself. I served in the army, and I know I'm a much better person for having served, the skills and values that you learn, and it's about celebrating, that's our first pillar, the amazing things that people are doing in our armed forces. Second pillar is about contributing. So many people are better off for having served. They leave the armed forces with a wealth of skills and experience, and they can make a huge contribution to our industries and our wider communities. It's about making sure that we are making the most of our veterans' skills and experience. And then, of course, the third pillar, very importantly, is support. Some veterans do need a bit of extra help when they leave the services, so it's about making sure that we do our duty by them and give them the support that they need. And as part of that, we've obviously announced £27 million worth of funding for the first tranche of applications for Valor. Valor is a great programme that we're doing. So what Valor will be is a network of hubs across the UK, physical locations where veterans can go and seek help. And one thing that I hear all the time from veterans is, I've got this problem, I'm not sure where to go, where can I go to get support? And what Valor is about addressing that. So it'll be a physical location where somebody can go in, have a cup of tea, talk about the issues that they're facing, and be signposted to all the support that is out there to help them.
How many, do we call them Valor centres, Minister? How many Valor centres is it hoped there will be able to be provided nationwide?
So I want a good geographical spread across the country, particularly in areas where we have high representation of veterans. Centres that wish to be part of the Valor network can apply for up to £1 million of funding, sort of between 500,000 and £1 million. And what's super important is that there is this physical location across the UK where veterans can go and ask the questions and get the answers that they need.
But how many will there be?
So this, we haven't set a particular number because this is about having the applications in. Of course, we're going to have a standardised output that we want these centres to have so that we know that veterans are getting what they need. But each centre, we want to make sure that we recognise the local nuances, work with the fantastic work that charities are already doing across the country.
We must have an idea, though, this £27 million. I mean, how much does each one cost per annum, or what is the set-up costs?
So again, it's going to be hugely dependent on the type of charity or CIC that asks for funding. So some places may be asking for a bit less money. For example, they may already have their own funding streams that pay for the location, for instance, and they may be asking for some help with funding caseworkers. This funding is set to be over 3 years. They can ask for a maximum of £1 million, but they can really ask for any amount up to that. It's really dependent on what they have already, what they're able to offer, and what they need to be able to kind of cover up the gap to make up for what we want a Valor recognised centre, the kind of service we want them to provide. And
Minister, who will staff these centres?
So again, it's dependent on the charity or the CIC that gets involved. So, for example, I know my local organisation has a mixture of caseworkers that come from a variety of different specialisms. So there are addiction support counsellors, for example, as well as people who are working on Nova, and also those that are supporting Fortitude. And this is something I really want to get across, Nick, and I wonder if you could help me with this, is Fortitude, which is our helpline for any veteran that is facing sleeping on the streets tonight, or if you know a veteran that's sleeping on the streets tonight, call this number and the government will make sure that we find accommodation for them. And the number is, Nick, and this is a challenge for everybody to remember this number, 0800 952 0774. If you're a veteran facing sleeping on the streets tonight, call that number and we will find accommodation for you.
Don't worry, I will read it again at the end of the interview. I'll give it one last time, but I will give you when I conclude with the Minister. It's 0800 952 0774. Do you have an idea roughly how many veterans sleep rough on our streets each night as we approach Christmas, Minister?
So those numbers are really hard to know, and of course one veteran on the streets is one veteran too many. We have obviously the number of referrals.
What sort of number do you think we might be talking of here?
So I think across the rough sleeping population, veterans certainly don't make up any more than we would expect to see, and I want to get that number down to zero, and that's why.
But what do you think the number is, Minister?
So we know with Fortitude that we see referrals in the tens every week, and we know that we've helped over 1,000 people access housing through Fortitude. And then we also know that those that are at risk of homelessness is a bigger number, and of course those stats are just very difficult to track. But actually I really want to take this back to Valor, because one of the really key things that Valor will do...
I don't think you know the figure, because I have asked you 3 times, and I would have thought if you want to talk about the importance of Operation Fortitude, it might have been an idea to look at the number, mightn't it, Minister?
No, so I think it's important to recognise that people who are sleeping on the streets, so the way we can collect that data, so it's really important to understand how we can collect the data.
It's 3,700, believed to be.
And, so as we know, that is far too many people that are sleeping on the streets that are veterans.
That's the size of the challenge you and your colleagues are facing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we've got Valor and we've got Fortitude, which is to make sure that we can get that number down to zero. OK, I've got one veteran asking, can you ask the Minister, will veterans need to register for the new Veterans Digital ID, asks Will. Will that be necessary to get these services, Minister? No, not at all. So the Veterans Digital Card is just a digital version of the Veterans Physical Card, which every veteran is entitled to have. I have one myself. I don't really carry physical cards around these days, so having it on my phone is very useful. It means that I can show that I'm a veteran when I want to. OK. While I have the Benview on the line, a couple of other matters. You've probably seen the headlines. The RAF to defend Belgium from what could be Russian drones that have also been sighted, it is believed, in Germany, Denmark, Norway and Sweden. An update on that, Minister? Yeah, so when our NATO allies call for aid, Britain steps up. So we have sent specialists from the RAF, who are counter-drone specialists, to Belgium to make sure that we are tackling this serious threat. All right. A view on the BBC. We now know, of course, that the Director General has gone, the head of news or CEO of news has gone. They all knew about this report in May. We're speaking in the middle of November, as did the chairman. Shouldn't Samir Shah go as well? So I think that's a matter for them. It's not for a government minister to opine over that kind of thing. What I would say is it's been clear that there have been editorial failings at the BBC that don't meet the high standards that the public have a right to expect. And of course, I think it's also very fair to say that the BBC is one of our hugely important national institutions. It is a lot of people have a lot of trust in the BBC. They access its very broad range of news output every day, from local matters to national and international matters. There's a huge amount of respect and trust for the BBC, but it is clear in this instance that there were some editorial failings. What level of trust do you have in it, Minister? I have a very high level of trust. So I get a lot of my news from the BBC. I see a broad range of views represented. One thing I definitely feel as a constituency MP, I speak to many people who can have very, very different views on a broad range of opinion. It's absolutely important that the BBC reflects that broad range of views. And so when I see things that I agree with and when I don't agree with, I think that's probably fair. And they certainly do a hugely fantastic job at reporting local news in particular. And lastly, can you give us an update on the progress of Operation Pianora? Yeah, so Pianora is the operation by the Wiltshire Police, which is investigating the incredibly troubling allegations. Well, it's believed it could be the biggest ever, I read anyway, it's feared. Yes, and certainly in the veterans networks that I'm part of, particularly the women's veterans networks that I'm a part of, it's certainly been a huge issue. I don't think there's a veteran out there that hasn't been thinking back to their own experiences and wondering what was right and what wasn't right. So I would urge anybody who has questions over what they went through in their medicals as a recruit to please get in touch with the police with those stories. Do we know, lastly, when any initial findings might be reported? Is there going to be a preliminary review? So it's Wiltshire Police that are leading on that. So that's for them to set out any timelines. But I can only repeat that anybody who believes that they have suffered these to get in touch. OK, grateful for your time. Thank you, Minister for Veterans and People, talking about this £27 million funding of these Valor centres. Watch this space as and when they become available.